Why would you ever be an ultra rare? You're terrible. And look at you. Check yourself out. Look at your mouth. Wait. That is your mouth, right? Welcome back to Buy the Box. We're doing episode 2 now, and we're going to be going over Neo Impact and Flame of the Tyrant. Start with the main box, Neo Impact. So I've found I need a better way to talk about these older boxes, so I'm going to try and categorize the cards a bit more. And I'm going to categorize them by great, good, and okay, because I feel like a lot of these older boxes are just loaded with bad, useless cards at this point. And the only ones that are worth talking about would be ones that are great, ones that are good, and ones that are okay. So as far as Neo Impact goes, there are some cards here that had some historical value in the meta of Duel Links, but I'm only going to be talking about how they apply currently. And if I had to say one card that was great, it would be Senju of the Thousand Hands. Kind of for the same reason as Sonic Bird, like I talked about in Ultimate Rising in the previous video. However, the reason I think Neo Impact is distinctly worse than Ultimate Rising is that there isn't a card that's better than Senju to be searching after while you try to go after this card as well. Like in the Ultimate Rising, you have Sonic Bird, but there is also Sphere Kuriboh. So your main goal would be to get a Sphere Kuriboh, but then if you pick up a copy of Sonic Bird on the way, it's pretty good. In Neo Impact, that just doesn't really exist. So Senju of the 1,000 Hands is very similar to Sonic Bird, where it's a ritual searcher, but this one actually searches out a ritual monster and not a ritual spell card. So both of them are useful within ritual archetypes, and it's definitely the best card currently in the box, simply because, like I mentioned in the last video with Sonic Bird, we have archetypes like Vendread and unnerfed Cyber Angels. So this card is good. It is future-proofed. I do see it seeing play in future ritual decks, but currently in the meta it doesn't have a whole lot of use, but it is a card that could be good in the future. And in the last video I mentioned with these older boxes, it's good to wait till the half-off gem sale, which as of the time making this video, late September, we have one right now with the new Arc 5 world. And that being said, unless you're really trying to make a ritual deck and you really want Senju of the 1,000 Hands, there's not a whole lot here. It's the only card that I would categorize as great. And even then, that's with the caveat that it's not great right now, but it has a lot of potential to be great. And it's a card that if you have, it could be relevant with more archetypes being added into the game, just like I was talking about with Sonic Bird in the previous video. Now, as far as good cards, in this box, I think there's really only two. And to start, one of those two is Mirror Wall. This card used to be a staple, and this card also has a bundle deal, and it's not half bad. The problem is, it is a battle trap, and it's one that's been power crept a lot, and it's a lot easier to deal with this day and age with Mystical Space Typhoon and other back row hate being prominent in the game. And on a continuous spell card, it has the effect that all of your opponent's monsters that conduct battle will have their attacks halved, with the trade-off that you have to pay 2,000 life points during each of your standby phase, and if you can't, then the card is destroyed. So realistically, in Duel Links, where you start with 4,000 life points, you can realistically only have this card on the field for 2 turns until it destroys itself. So best case scenario, you're taking away 2 battle phases from your opponent, but this card has been power crept, and when I say it's good, I'm very lenient on what that means. It's definitely a meh card in the current meta, and I do not think it'll see play in the future just because it has been power crept by a lot better battle traps, namely Drowning Mirror Force. And then the other card that I would constitute as good is Half Shut. Half Shut has the effect to prevent a monster from being destroyed by battle that it targets, but it also halves its attack. So you can use this on your own monster to prevent it from being destroyed by battle, or you could use it on your opponent's monster to have its attack. This is a card that isn't bad because it is a quick play spell card, but effectively it is another battle trap that has been power crept by other things. The card itself is good, it's versatile and it is useful, but in the current meta, is it a card worth going after? Definitely not, and it's kind of like Mirror Wall where I say it's good, but very loosely good, and definitely not worth going after. Now, as for cards that I think are okay, we have the Ritual Djinn monsters. So first we have Djinn Procrastinator. How about that? of Rituals, and it has the effect where if it's used for the ritual summon of a monster, that ritual monster gains the effect that when it inflicts battle damage, you get to draw a card. That effect isn't that bad, especially if you put it on a really good ritual monster. The biggest issue with the card is, as a ritual material, being a level 3 is quite the detriment to it, and it's also not a target for advanced ritual art, so it's very difficult to make use of it, and you're losing a lot of card advantage to use this as a ritual play. And the same could be said for Djinn, Desert of Rituals, and his effect is that he makes the ritual monster immune to trap cards. And once again, this is pretty good, it's actually quite good to make a ritual monster that, let's say, has some really good on-field effects, making them immune to trap cards. Excellent. But I would actually argue that Desert is distinctly worse than Procrastinator for the same reason, but this one's a level 1 monster, so it's even harder to make use of. But it should be noted you could use this for Relinquished, and then you could get a Relinquished on the field that's immune to trap cards, and I guess that's not half bad. These are two cards that with more ritual support they could end up being good, but as of right now I would say they're just simply okay. Another okay card in the box to me is Fusion Weapon. It's one of the rares, and you can equip it to a level 6 or lower fusion monster and it'll gain 1500 attack or defense. There are decent fusion targets for this card, including Chimeratech Rampage Dragon, even though it's a bit of a weird combination, but a monster that can attack multiple times, giving it 1500 more attack. Not half bad. There's also Secret 6 Samurai Rihan, Invoked Kaliga, Gem Knight Seraphonite, and even things like Elemento Hero Flame Wingman that can put a ton of damage on the board. Situationally useful, situationally okay, and fairly generic, and that's why I'm putting this card in the okay section. Like, if you really needed one, it being a rare wouldn't hurt to go through a couple of packs of Neo Impact during a half-off gem sale. And then the other card that I think is okay is Shooting Starbow Seal. It can equip itself to any monster, no restrictions on that. It loses 1000 attack points, but then it can attack directly. And this can be paired with a lot of cards that gain advantage or effects from inflicting battle damage to your opponent or attacking directly in general. Not a half bad card. It is more of a gimmick card, but I say it's okay because I could see it finding some niche uses here and there for those exact reasons. Monsters that gain effects when they inflict battle damage, things such as that. Is it great? Is it entirely useful? No, it's another one of these situationally okay cards. And if I'm being completely honest, I'm kind of grasping at straws with some of these cards to justify their okayness. But overall, I would say this box is definitely worse than Ultimate Rising because it doesn't have a card that is like Sphere Karibo, a card that just has this longevity, this card that has this usefulness. There's nothing in here that really accomplishes that. Overall, Neo Impact is pretty bad. It's definitely worse than Ultimate Rising, and in my opinion, unless you're looking for very specific things that will predominantly apply to ritual support, it's not worth it. Alright, and here we have Flames of the Tyrant. Both of the ultra rares are terrible. They're so bad. Tyrant Dragon is not good. He's a level 8 monster who has battle phase related effects that can't bring himself out, so he's near enough useless. And he even has a restriction for cards that would try to pull him out of the graveyard, where if he were to be special summoned from the graveyard, you would have to tribute a dragon type monster, and that makes it even worse. And granted, its first effect, where if it destroys a monster by battle, it can attack another monster. While that's okay, we have Blue Eyes Twin Dragon in the game that is easy to bring out because of the Ultimate Dragon skill. So you want to talk about power creep pretty hard on Tyrant Dragon. Not good, not worth it. And then Rigorous Reaver that I picked on in the intro of this video, yeah, it's bad, but getting your opponent to discard a card is, but again, you want to talk about power creep, Dark World Dealings is in the game. And Dark World Dealings is infinitely better than this card. I can't think of any practical usefulness with it. I mean, I guess at the very least it's a fire type, so you could maybe run Invoked Rigorous Reaver to get Purgatory on the field and go for game while pulling cards from your opponent's hand. I don't really know. So some of the super rares are actually a lot better than the ultra rares in this box, and yeah, both of them are atrocious. And that being said, in the great category, I got nothing here. There are no great cards within this box. And so moving on to good cards, Yeah. So moving on to okay cards, I want to start with a card I love, and that's Warmworm. Has the effect that when it's destroyed by battle or card effect, your opponent sends the top 3 cards of their deck to the graveyard. This is probably the best mill card currently in Duel Links. It's at least the best that I can think of, and if it's not the best, it's definitely up there. And there have been Warmworm mill decks within Duel Links before. And this card is more of a gimmick card, but I like it quite a bit just because I enjoy these gimmicky sort of experimental decks like a mill deck, even though it's not all that viable currently in the meta. But if you wanted to make a mill deck, this is one of the most essential cards in Duel Links to use, and that's why I would say it's okay. Then we have Sergeant Electro. This card used to be really good in Duel Links before we had better back row hate. His effect is he can target a face down spell or trap card your opponent controls, and while he's on the field, it cannot be activated. This card has been solely power crept by Nightbeam, who can destroy a spell or trap card and prevent it from being activated while doing it. But also, in general, there is just better back row removal that's also easier to get than Sergeant Electro, but he still is an okay card, and his effect is useful. And continuing with the okay cards, we have Legion, the Fiend Jester. And essentially what he does is he allows you a tribute summon of a spellcaster type monster on top of your normal summoner set. And that effect is okay, it's situationally useful, but his second effect is when he's sent to the graveyard in any way, if he's destroyed, sent there by card effect, battle, doesn't matter, you can add a spellcaster normal type from your deck to your hand. Now, with the seeming resurgence of Dark Magician decks, that second effect could end up being useful for Dark Magician decks, but I wouldn't count on it. Can he find his way into a 20 card deck? Can someone justify running this over other things? Probably not, but he is an okay card, and if you don't have some of the other core cards to like a Dark Magician deck, he could be okay. Tri-White allows you to special summon 3 level 2 or lower normal monsters from your graveyard, which, if you have an empty board, you could summon all 3 and then facilitate rank 2, rank 1 plays. This card could be better in the future if we get better rank 1 or rank 2 monsters, so this is another one of those. I wouldn't call it a good card, and I'm very loose to call it an okay card right now, but it has the potential to be okay in the future, so this is another one to keep an eye on. And then I also got to talk about the Agent of Creation Venus, that allows you to special summon a mystical Shine Ball, which is a vanilla level 2 monster from your deck at the cost of 500 life points. Now, this effect it sounds worse than it is, but summoning a monster from the deck, regardless of what monster it is consistently useful, and this card has been good in the past. And like I was saying with Tri-White, if we get better rank 2 exceeds, or if there's better ways to turn these mystical shine balls into advantage, this card could see play again. I don't know if that'll happen though, but this is another one of those keep your eye on it kind of cards. So another card that I kind of forgot to talk about for a second was the Shallow Grave. So this card allows you and your opponent to special summon a monster from your graveyard in face down defense position. And this is a card that if Needleworm ever came to the game, it actually could be pretty good. Needleworm is like Warmworm, but it sends 5 cards from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, and it's on a flip effect. So it's better because it sends more cards, but it's also worse because it's on a flip effect. But paired with cards like this and Burst Rebirth, we could see maybe a resurgence in some gimmick mill decks. Duel Links is more susceptible to decking out since the deck size limit is just lower, so who knows, another card to keep your eye on. So overall, I would say Flame of the Tyrant is pretty bad. In my opinion, the best card in it is Warmworm, but overall, I do think it's better than Age of Discovery, so I guess that's something to say for it. Is this a box to go after during the half-off gem sale? Yes, if you're trying to build a Warmworm mill deck, but overall, no. There's these nice cards that you can get from it, but there's nothing like Sphere Karibo that you would actually be hunting for while gaining all these cards that you could run in some fun decks, some gimmick decks, something to try out, a mill deck with Warmworm, or some kind of spell and trap card lockdown deck with Sergeant Electro. There's really just not a whole lot here. Alright, and that's going to do it for episode 2 of Buy the Box. The next time we're going to do this, we're going to be looking at Valkyrie's Rage and Wonders of the Sky. I'm going to try this format of categorizing cards based on great, good, and okay, because talking about the bad ones with these older boxes is very hit and miss, but thankfully they will start to pick up steam not too far from here, and there's going to be more interesting cards for me to talk about. So if these videos at first kind of seem a little redundant about, you know, there's this card that's okay that you can maybe go after, but overall it's not worth it, that'll change as the series goes on, but that's just kind of the crux of these early boxes. But if you found some insight on some of the cards that are in these boxes that, you know, maybe you want to build this gimmick deck or maybe you want to do this, then I hope this video was helpful, and I thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you liked the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.